Today, we're going to focus on the budget for fiscal 2024 that begins on April 1st. We understand that this rate increase, much higher than historical norms, is very painful. And we want to discuss how we got to this place. But as important, we want to talk about where we're going forward. We understand that there is quite a bit of fear and anxiety among residents about the possibility of this type of high rate increase continuing. And of course, the consequence would be concern about the ability to pay over the long term. We want to discuss with you, as I said, how we got to 9.5%. But I think as important, we want to talk to you about steps we're taking to moderate rate increases in the future. We're going to go through some background materials fairly quickly so we can get to the most important part, in my opinion, the question and answer period. Ed's going to start with a review of the material that was distributed in advance. Then we're going to move to Leon and ask for an update on what's happening at Kingsley Manor and what the plans are for the coming year at Kingsley. Following that, we'll return for Q&A. We're going to stay here as long as you have questions. So anyone that has something that's come up during the meeting that you or toward the end, feel free at any time to raise your hand, get our attention, because we're here for as long as you'd like to discuss this. Ed, do you want to start with your video?
The budget slides that you will see today are divided into two separate areas. The first one being retirement communities, and then the consolidated view, which includes all of the entities within the Front Porch organization. The first slide is the operating gain loss before other operating charges, strictly for the retirement communities, also known as the bottom line. A little definition of what this is: operating gain, which includes the community expenses, any overhead, depreciation, and debt service. The first column there is our budget for fiscal year 2023, which shows a loss of $1.8 million. The next column is our current results through November year to date, which shows a loss of $5.5 million. The third column is where we're forecasting to end this fiscal year, which ends March 31st, 2023, a loss of $5.9 million projection. The last column is our budget for next fiscal year 2024, showing a positive operating gain before other operating charges of just above $2 million. This was used to establish the rate increase and represents a 1.4% operating margin. Page 2 is a detail for the prior slide, breaking out operating revenue, operating expenses, operating gain, or the bottom line, all the way to the bottom in increase in unrestricted net assets. Page 3 is the retirement community's revenue by line of business, which you can see residential living represents over 76% of the total revenue, with care centers at 18.5% and memory care at 5.4%. We'll see more comparisons in following slides. Page 4 represents a comparison between the forecast of where we see ourselves ending fiscal year 2023 to the budget for fiscal year 2024. In page 5, we've got a breakout for the retirement community's expenses for salaries and wages, supplies, utilities and rent, food, depreciation, insurance and property tax, interest, and other. The majority of our expenses are spent on salaries and wages. For fiscal year 2024, we have an average 8% merit increase across the board. Slide 7 represents our cash and investments over fiscal year 2022 through our budget 2024. As you can see, it's decreased from $613 million down to below $500 million over the last 3 years. which reflects strong capital spending during the 3 years, less our operating losses and the change in market value of our portfolio. Page 8 represents the retirement community's capital expenditures for fiscal year 2022, fiscal year 2023, and the budget for fiscal year 2024. In aggregate, the 3 years represent over $200 million in total capital spend. The next 3 slides that you see in the packet reflect the occupancy percentages for residential living, memory care, and care center. Slide 9, you can see the increase occupancy to 90.6 for fiscal year 2024 budget. Slide 10 for memory care occupancy also shows a modest increase in memory care occupancy at 93.5%. Slide 11 shows the continued care center occupancy decline, where fiscal year 2022 was at 71.2% and dropping down to 60.2% for the 2024 budget. In prior years, the volumes for the care center ranged anywhere from 80 to 89%. The next set of slides here is the consolidated financial information for Front Porch. It includes other entities within Front Porch such as affordable housing, foundation, and the gallery. Slide 13 is the consolidated budget overview for operating gain loss before other operating charges, also known as the bottom line. You'll see the aggregation of all the entities within Front Porch for fiscal year 2023 budget, November year to date, the fiscal year 2023 forecast, and the fiscal year 2024 budget just above $4.8 million. Slide 14 is the detail of the prior slide, breaking out the same operating revenue all the way to the bottom, showing the increase in unrestricted net assets. Slide 15 is the consolidated revenue by line of business that adds the residential living, memory care, care center, affordable housing, and other. Slide 16 takes the revenue by those lines of business compared against the FY 2023 forecast to the fiscal year 2024 budget and the percentage change between the two. And slide 17 is a consolidated expense breakdown between the same categories that were presented in the prior slides. Now you can see there's some similarities here in that salaries, wages, and benefits constitutes a majority of our total expenses. Slide 18 is a detailed breakout of the prior slide between fiscal year 2023 forecast and fiscal year 2024 budget, with their corresponding dollar change and percentage change between the two of them. The last slide in the presentation is the consolidated capital expenditures, where you see fiscal year 2022 actual was just under $75 million, going up to just under $89 million for fiscal year 2023 budget, to well over $109 million for fiscal year 2024. I hope you found this informative, and we look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Ed. Let's go to Leon for an update on what's happening at Kingsley Manor.
All right, good morning. All right, let's start off this morning with the budget process. And so as in prior years, the budget is prepared with the community and residents being the priority. We seek different strategies to continue to provide the most efficient and effective services while maintaining our cost. We also factor in inflation, minimum wages, and the cost of supplies and goods. In addition, we solicit your ideas, suggestions, and turn them into reality. And that's how we get to the budget. For some community highlights, We continue to strive for excellence while providing the best quality of care and services. And while we do that, we are expanding our health and wellness programs to incorporate more fitness instructors, classes, and private sessions. And in the upcoming year, we plan to enhance our dining experience by adding a electronic handheld device that will provide us with an opportunity to address food waste preferences, manage inventory and ordering. And in regards to our operational highlights, Kingsley Manor has been able to achieve minimal staff turnover during one of the most challenging labor markets, which we take pride in. A lot of our staff members have a lot of tenure here, so we're very proud of that. In addition to that, we currently have all of our key positions filled, and we only seek to hire on-call and part-time personnel at this time. As we attempt to remain competitive in the job market, we will significantly increase the wages of our current staff as well as any new talent up to 8%. Operationally, we're currently at 83% occupied on our residential side, while we are achieving our goal of 87%. We look forward to decreasing the amount of unoccupied units, and currently we're at 43% occupied in the care center. Some of our capital highlights that we're proud to share with you are the automated doors into the dining room and also the North Administration Building. We do plan on adding the automated doors for Lightsville Hall, but we have to wait until after the fire alarm project to get those installed due to some inspection issues, but we'll get those done. We've also added the addition of the sheltered smoking area. Most recently, we've replaced the carpet in the dining hall and Lightsville Hall. We did some restoration on the ceiling in the chapel due to a plumbing concern. We also did some modifications to the balcony and the stairwell landings where we added extensions for the safety of the residents. And just a little FYI, the fire alarm project is about 75% complete. And we will continue with some capital highlights. We are also in the process of purchasing a new community wheelchair accessible van. And tomorrow we are scheduled to have our awnings replaced on the north and south side patios. That's if the rain doesn't catch the installers, we'll get that installed for you tomorrow. And also the long anticipated lobby renovation that will be starting really soon, hopefully in the next week and a half to 14 days. Some of the behind the scenes capital purchases that you may not be aware of is we purchased a new fryer for the kitchen, a commercial boiler for the Lightsville Hall basement, a storage tank for the basement in Lightsville Hall, and a commercial main laundry dryer. Some of the future capital projects that we have planned, we will do some renovations to Azalea Court, the outside kitchen area. We plan on resurfacing all the uneven pathways and walkways throughout the community. We also plan to upgrade the interior and exterior camera system on campus. And we also want to tackle the fresh paint and carpet in all the hallways of the residential buildings. So we'll give that all the buildings kind of a new look and feel interiorly. And we will also continue with the second portion of the elevator modernization in Lightsville Hall. One of the big things that I think we're all aware of is we'll be replacing all the seat cushions that all the squirrels have taken a liking to. And they've taken out all the insides of the cushions for their little nest. So we'll get all those replaced for you. And then in an effort of going green, we will be installing 2 EV charging stations, and we're going to evaluate our current lawn and look at decorative rocks and gravels for some alternative ideas. And then we're gonna look at some composting. And as always, we welcome your feedback. And I know that Ute is going to be heading one of our green projects, so we'll loop her in and maybe she'll have more to say on that. And as at the end of another fiscal year, is rapidly approaching and it's coming to a close, we just want to take this time to say thank you. I know it hasn't been easy, but we couldn't have done it without your continued support, understanding, and patience. And we look forward to the upcoming fiscal year.
Thank you, Leon.
Thank
We
you.
want to thank you for your leadership, getting us through this difficult year. You and the Kingsley residents have been fantastic. We really are impressed with all that's going on. I'm always staggered by the breadth of the types of projects you have going. Particularly impressed, though, that the fire alarm project's nearing a conclusion.
Yes.
It's been a long one coming, and all I can say is those poor squirrels. I think your defenses are entirely justified. So go forward. Jen, let's get to my favorite part, the question and answer period. How would you like to proceed?
All right, so we have a small number of folks that are joining us from their homes, and fortunately they are well versed in how to join the conversation here. I see Uta and I see Donna. So you're more than welcome to join the conversation by raising your hand and your camera, since your cameras are on, unmuting your mic or raising your Zoom hand. I know that a majority of our resident participation is coming from the Sky Room. Raymond, we are going to rely on you in the Sky Room to help us navigate all of the questions that are that might arise from there. We did receive one question in advance that I'd like to kind of kick us off with. Thank you, Leon, for forwarding this to us. I think these sentiments are probably shared by many folks. Starting April 1, rent increase of 9.5% seems excessive. Yes, Social Security has gone up 8.7%. However, the average Social Security income for Kingsley Manor is about $1,400 a month, which is an annual increase of $2,800 a year. The average Kingsley Manor rent of about $5,000 a month equals an annual increase of $10,700 for an annual resident difference of $7,900, rounded up to $8,000. Where are Kingsley Manor residents supposed to come up with $8,000? Kingsley Manor's management solution is for residents to move to a smaller, less expensive unit. Please explain how Kingsley Manor residents are to afford this huge rent increase.
Well, I think, David, that's a good summary of the pain that this increase has created. We got very comfortable with a 4 to 5% annual increase that was the average for probably 10 years or so. Last year, we were at 5.5% as we started to feel the bite of inflation. And this year, at the highest rate that in memory for us. It's interesting. We do this based on our expenses, as Ed explained. But Social Security increase is typically a lot lower than our rate increase because in California, the cost of living is a lot higher than the national expenses, which Social Security is based on. But that's really, I think, your other points about where does this come since we have fixed income. Many residents have it's fixed income. That is it's an excellent question, and I think we have to deal with it on a case-by-case basis. We were looking at all possibilities, whether moving to a less expensive unit, it works for you. We also have resources with the foundation too for resident assistance. But Ed, I think the operative thing here is, can you talk a little about how we went about identifying expense reductions this year, and what are we going to do going forward so that we, even if inflation continues, we're going to have some offsets.
Yeah, no, good morning, everybody. Thanks for letting me join today. I think the sentiments that was expressed here are very similar to what we've been hearing, and frankly, what we anticipated as well as we came up with the 9.5%. We've said we didn't start here. We started at a much lower rate, looked at what our current costs were. And frankly, this was one of the very last decision points that we had during the budget process. So how we got here, is it, and how we, implemented to get it, to, frankly, the 9.5%, and not any higher, was through, multiple iterations, going back and forth, listening to, the EDs, realizing what they've done over the last few years in response to, what they had to, react to with COVID, not being able to get staffing, readjusting the processes within each community, because as you saw in the one slide, salaries and wages make up the majority of our total expenses. In some cases, it's upwards up to 60% at any one community. So really looking at what we can do to do things differently was a common theme in this year's budget, and really moving forward. How can we do things differently, where we can provide the same, but with less, less people, is kind of the bottom line. And that's been a difficult, very difficult journey that we've gone through over the last few years, and implementing that in what we've learned over the last few years into the 24 budget. So that's one area. I know that a lot of the communities really dug deep and looked at what those continued savings can be carried forward into next year's the 24 budget. Other areas that we've looked in is in supplies, leveraging our bigger new front porch with the addition of the Covia communities, and leveraging that ability to go out to some of the vendors, and look at what lower pricing per unit that we can get. We've always been a part of a group purchasing organization that basically does that, but on steroids, with over hundreds of other companies that join that to be able to leverage all of our purchasing power. So we continue to do that piece of it, and really we've looked at every nook and cranny to be able to get the rate as low as possible. And our commitment, as well, is to do that moving forward into the future, because we don't want to come back here and we want to get it to as low of rate as we possibly can. All signs on inflation, fingers crossed. It kind of bounces back and forth, but I think anticipation of it being less than what it was in this last year is certainly what the federal government is trying to position us to as well. Another thing that we did that will also help is we consolidated our business systems into one, that will enable us to be able to really look at the data, and start standardizing and unifying some of the opportunities that are out there. But it really is being able to look at what that is, identify. That's really the first step. so we can see what those opportunities are to be able to, lower the impact to the residents. And that just happened about a month and a half ago now. And we're going to continue to look at that as we mature into the system, and, start leveraging that with the end goal of, keeping the rate as low as possible.
Thank you, Ed. I think one of the real advantages Kingsley Manor has is this stability in staffing that Leon mentioned. Your long tenured staff, your experienced staff is really critical. We clearly need to look at different ways of working so that we can lower expenses. Most other communities have had severe staffing shortages. And I think with your experienced team, if we ask them, how can we do things better, they will tell us. So we plan to go right to the employees and ask them what they think we should do going forward. But I think, Jeff, Ed's talking about the expense side, but the other area that has some potential is occupancy. Leon mentioned a couple of numbers, one in independent living and the other in the care center. Do you want to talk about, strategies going forward for improving on that? Because that should help us too.
Yeah, I will, John. I mean, thank you. And can everybody hear me okay? Just want to make sure my microphone's working. Thank you. Good morning, Kingsley Manor residents. And I want to reiterate that this 9.5% rate increase is painful for you, I'm sure, and painful for others who are experiencing these kinds of increases in all of our senior living. And I think that, John touched on occupancy, and one of the things that we need to do as an organization is continue to add value to our communities so that we can attract more prospects. And as we grow our occupancy, that really helps us mitigate some of the increases and mitigate some of these expenses. We can leverage our size across all of our portfolio. Unfortunately, in our care centers, we're seeing a decline in occupancy, which is disturbing and a trend that we don't think is going to be reversed. It's going to be something we have to be really watchful on, and we're going to have to come up with some difficult and challenging solutions in order to make that go forward. But I think that doesn't really answer your question, David. I think what you're really saying is how can we survive these rate increases? And as John pointed out, this is an individual solution. There is no magic bullet that I can say, here's what you need to do. I know several of our residents are forced to make adjustments in their personal lifestyle to manage some of these costs. Some of them are looking at downsizing. Some of them are getting assistance from family, and others may in fact decide that they need to go to another location, which we hope not. But the most important thing is seek out help early, talk to our executive director, find out what the options are, find out soon, and then let us know how we can best assist you.
Thanks, Jeff. I think the other thing that we should emphasize is that we're continuing to invest in Kingsley Manor. And our budget next year, Jeff, is almost $3 million for capital expenditures.
It is.
And go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's really important. I think we lose sight of the fact that all of the dollars that you see going back into Kingsley Manor for the improvements and maintaining the integrity of the plant, property, and equipment, those things are critical to all of you as we go forward in creating an environment that shows everyone that we are on top of the situation, that we want to invest money into our communities, and more importantly, that we have the resources to do so. I mean, without these kinds of adjustments in rate, we would not have the capital reserves necessary to make these changes. And so as we move forward, those are critical issues that we have to remember, that if we don't have the capital reserves, these kinds of impacts, these kinds of capital improvements would not be possible.
Thanks, Jeff. Jen, do you see any questions either in the Sky Room or out there in people's homes?
I don't, but I would like to invite Raymond to at least give us an audio on the room there and whether or not there are some questions. Raymond, we don't have visibility into the Sky Room, so we'll rely on you to let us know how things are in there.
Let me ask away and see if we have any questions.
Thank you. Thanks
So-
so much. In the meantime, we have a couple of people that are joining from their homes. I do see Uta.
Oh, I see a hand raised.
Okay. Oh, Donna. Donna,
Donna.
yes. Please unmute your microphone and join the conversation.
Good morning, Donna. It's great to see you. Yeah, look for that mute button. It's always a small one.
Okay, can you
There
hear
you
me?
go.
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I downsized a year and a half ago from a 1-bedroom to a studio. Now, I've heard a lot of discussion about, what are we going to do, say, if you're in a studio like me, and this is going to go up, the rate. I would suspect you're going to have to think of ways to enlarge the place where people go, where you get the help. And I forget the name, it begins with an M, I think, here on campus. What does one do? I know you said that you would help us individually, but there's so many people. How are you going to help so many?
Donna, as always, you're very articulate and straight to the point. It's a really tough challenge, and we have to handle it one-on-one. And we have resources to create individual solutions. But do you have any thoughts about this that you've given this some time to think about?
I've given it time to think. I'm going to have to cut back on a lot of things that I do, outside of here. Then I have my family here, but, they've got their family going, my grandchild and private school and all that. So I know I won't be out on the street, but.
No.
No, I know I won't be out on the street, but I know I can't live with them should that happen. My other question is, do you know in advance if this is going to work and we can be stable at that 9.5% for at least a year or more?
Donna, I wish I could give you that absolute reassurance, but I can't. That number was driven by the wage inflation which is in turn driven by salaries and wages of our staff. I think that what we need to do is look at ways to reduce expenses, regardless of what the wage inflation happens. If it goes up, we just have to find a way to work with less expense. And that's been our theme for some time. But now with this sharp increase that we saw in December, we know there's a sense of urgency that you have very eloquently shared with us this morning. Jeff, any other thoughts about what we can tell Donna? We don't have a crystal ball, but what can we tell her about what we're going to do?
I'm glad, Donna, that you're not going to be homeless, and I'm glad that you're going to be able to stay at Kingsley Manor. And we certainly want you to work with us and talk to us more about what that means. If there's pressures that we can do anything to help you, we want to help you. Beyond that, John's right. We don't have a crystal ball. I can tell you that every single year, myself, the management team, my team, everyone at the communities works extremely hard to find ways to mitigate expenses. and reduce expenses. That's our goal. That's our promise to you. This year was a perfect storm of multiple factors coming together that we hope will mitigate as we continue forward. We hope that the labor shortage comes to a close and that we see some relief. We hope some of our costs continue to go down slightly from from this high inflationary period that we're in. And we continue to be optimistic. That's the best I can hope for right now. But we're going to keep talking to you and other residents. We're going to keep you advised. We're going to keep you updated. And we're going to let you know as we continue forward where we think we're going and where the trends are. So we'll keep having that conversation. I hope that helps a little bit, Donna, ease your mind.
Thank
Well,
you.
Well, thank you, Donna. You're very generous because we're not giving you any sort of safety net, which you deserve. You deserve. And I think that the one thing that we've mentioned that we haven't discussed explicitly, but I know residents don't depend on resident assistance. That's not something they want where they want to go. But Leon, what's our current status of that fund? How much resources do we have available if residents come to you and need some help?
We could definitely assist a few of the residents. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we do have a little more funds in our program than some of the other communities. So if Donna or any other resident that's in the community requires some assistance, we can definitely help.
And Donna, you weren't asking for this. I'm asking just for residents in general. And I think that this is one of the things that we can affect directly through fundraising. There's a lot of generous people, including those on the call today, that want to support this. So let's look at all mechanisms available, because not only do I not want people to even consider leaving, I don't want people to live in a state of fear and anxiety too. So thank you very much. Your input is always inspirational and to the point. I see another hand up in the sky room. Is that the entire room, Raymond, that's asking the question, or just one person?
No, I have Nancy here with us. She's going to ask a question, and then we have a couple of the residents that will come up.
Thank you, Nancy.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Do I
Okay, you can do that.
talk in
Yeah.
that? Okay. My question has to do with, I live in Wrightsville Hall, and the elevator situation is getting to be an emergency. One elevator has been out for an entire month, which means that the one elevator is the only operational one. And the workers use it, the residents use it, and there are long waits. And there are also people that are in wheelchairs and cannot walk down. Some of us are able to walk up and down, but we keep getting reports of the delay. And I think it's really getting to be dangerous for the residents here. And I want to know if there's some way to speed up the process. They say that putting in one elevator is going to take 4 months, I don't know, a lot of time. So, and I think other residents feel that way too. That's my question. How can it be speeded up?
Nancy, I sense the urgency. Elevators are not optional. The reality of elevators these days, especially ones that are aged, they require a lot of repairs, and the repairs have only gotten slower during the pandemic. But I don't know about the specific situation. Leon, what's happening with that specific elevator? And do we have it in the capital budget for the coming year?
Yes, we do. Like you said, John, our elevators are very aged, and in the process of continuously repairing the elevators, it's becoming more difficult to find the parts for the elevators. And so instead of finding the parts, they're trying to recreate the parts. And so it's taking a very, very long time. And again, we continue to apologize for that. But some of that is out of our control due to the age of the elevators. We have been in contact with the elevator company. We just met on site last week, and we were given a start date to get the Lightsville Hall North elevator back in motion. So we're hoping to have them out in the next few days, and it's going to take anywhere from 7 to 10 business days to get the elevator up and going. But hopefully in the next 2 weeks, that'll be working accurately. And then once we start the modernization of both of those elevators, that should cut down the non-operable time tremendously. We should not have any down elevators once both of them have been modernized. So continue to bear with us. We know it's been an ongoing issue. We're meeting with them diligently. We're calling, emailing, texting. We're doing everything we can within our power, but some of it is just supply, demand, and the age of the elevators.
Nancy, we're hearing about elevators everywhere we meet with residents. So far, the only strategy that I think is effective is the one that Leon just described. You just have to stay on them and take all communication measures, follow up, and make sure that they do everything they can to stick to that schedule. I suspect when you hear 2 weeks or 10 working days, your reaction is the same as mine, which is, I can live with that as long as they really do complete the work in 10 days. And you never know for certain because there's unexpected things that happen along the way. But the type of follow-up that Leon described is really the best way to go. Jeff, anything you want to weigh in on elevator strategy? I hear about this a lot.
Yeah, I know this isn't going to help hearing this, Nancy, but these kinds of problems are consistent at all of our communities. We had an elevator down at Villa Gardens in Pasadena for almost a year. I'm really glad to hear Miss Leon's feedback and that she's got this under control. I think if you can get this elevator updated in 2 weeks, you're doing really well. And it's not a problem of resources. It's not a problem of not being consistent and trying. It's just the age of the equipment and the ability to find replacement parts. And it sounds like we're moving in the right direction. So hang in there. I know it will get fixed sooner than later. Just give us a little more time. Sounds like we're working on it.
Thanks, Jeff. Raymond, you said you have another question lined up?
If Raymond is not ready,
Yes, we do. I do have someone coming up right now.
Okay. So we do have a queue, John. Once we have the Sky Room, we have a couple of folks that are unmuted in the participant list. They are joining us by phone.
You know how to. Oh, they can hear you.
They can still hear me?
Yep.
There we are, Sky Room. Hello.
Getting a little feed. Oh, there we go.
Yes. Let me just acknowledge a couple of folks. There is a phone number ending in 128 that is unmuted that I'm guessing you want to participate in the conversation. But before that, we also have John Bill, who had been unmuted for some time. So you are in the queue. Please know that we will get to you as soon as we can. So it sounds like the Sky Room is ready. There we go. And there
Back
we are.
to my room. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Tanya Keshale in 309 AD building. I had a couple of questions. As far as salaries and wages go, what I have noticed is throughout, particularly the last year, I've had great difficulty getting any help in my room or when I've asked for assistance. And I think this has been the case with many residents to the extreme. And there has been a shortage of staff and there have been hiring problems. However, there has been a great deal of renovation of rooms going on. A great deal. So there has been a hiring of outside contractors. And room after room has been under renovation. And a beautiful renovation of rooms has been going on with an entirely new style, new flooring, new, well, there's a certain style that's being put forth, which is a considerable upgrade. It's very beautiful, and it's a definite plant facility upgrade to Kingsley Manor that we can all admire and appreciate. So this is lovely, and I do like the style. It's in keeping with the period of Kingsley Manor. However, it's expensive. Now, also during this, while this renovation has been going on, which has been very extensive, they've also been using the workers that normally are helping us and also have been are there to maintain our public health standards, our trash pickup and everything else. And that has fallen a little bit short. Okay, my question to you is, that has cost a lot of money. Now, I can't help but think the 9.5% increase isn't paying for some of this upgrade. And now we're paying for it. And miraculously, these workers, these wages, these costs haven't been mentioned in this entire discussion. So, I mean, that's my point. And then, I mean, going forward, and you're mentioning a lot of very nice things here, but this is wonderful. We want this place improved. We want it to be beautiful. And, you know, but for all of us to pay the 9.5%, I feel like we're paying for your upgrade of the last year. Now, I have one other question. Who paid for the fire upgrade? Is that the state?
The kitchen fire, correct?
No. This entire fire alarm upgrade.
Fire
It's a
alarm.
fire station. I mean, the entire fire upgrade.
Fire safety.
Fire
Fire
facility.
I believe that Front Porch is paying for that, but Leon, can you verify that?
Well,
Yes,
that's a very big question.
that is not being paid through the city.
Who's paying for it?
We are,
That's a huge expense.
yes.
So you have had enormous expenses over the last 2 years.
Yes.
Enormous,
Yes.
because this fire is enormous.
The fire. Yeah, right.
Then the renovations, and I've seen improvements on the videotaping. I mean, I've been watching all of these improvements. It has been a lot.
Yes. Yes, we're investing a lot. Some of it.
Investing a lot.
Yes, a lot of it is safety, like the fire alarm system. We need to do that. We need to do that to appropriately care for our residents. But just to go back on your concerns, I think where you started was that there's not enough people to support you on staff, and in some ways you've said that they've been diverted to assist with these room renovations or the fire alarm project. And then
Not the fire alarm, but well, maybe a little bit on that. Yes.
they've
To
been
move the,
to
Yep.
do these other things. Well, just to clarify the accounting, this budget's about your operating expenses. The things that you mentioned, the room renovations and the fire alarm, those are all come out of Front Porch's reserves. Those reserves are created and grow and invested for the benefit of all Front Porch communities, all 19 communities. So those are come out of a common fund. They do not affect your rate increase in that year. Where they do affect is that once we build something new, there's this accounting concept called depreciation. What that really is, once you build something, you have to, that you will need in the future, you have to start putting aside funds to replace it as it wears out. But that's not, it's not attributable to the 9.5%.
it's not attributable. Okay.
No, I don't know. Ed, am I getting on thin ice here? You usually
No,
start holding your head when I start
no,
getting
no,
into.
no, that answers my question because the feeling I had was, oh, we're paying for, Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
No.
John, you were spot on.
Oh, thank goodness. I was just double
Spot
checking.
on. Spot on.
Wow. So, but what I'm really gratified to hear is you like what they're doing with the room renovations, and
The style is beautiful. It's in keeping with the style of the facility. But anyway, I don't want to take all the time. There's other residents.
that's a very good question. I'm glad you brought it up.
Thank you for your answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ed. First.
I'm going to invite John Bill to the conversation and ask you to unmute your microphone, please. And we thank you for your graciousness in waiting.
Not a problem. I wish I was better prepared. I didn't, I made a few notes, but one of the possible interpretations, I guess you'd call it, it seems to me from just looking at the charts, which I don't have in front of me, that the majority of increase in expenditures was to increase the salaries, and I thought maybe the medical coverage, et cetera, of the staff. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then after that, there was a portion of the session where things in terms of capital improvements were represented as being planned for the future. Decor, but I wonder if a lot of the improvements, kitchen equipment, et cetera, aren't more or less ongoing things that need to be done in order for Kingsley Manor to attract residents and to continue to remain competitive in the market, isn't it? I mean, these are things that you would have to do, just like a boat. You're always doing something on a boat to
please
keep it.
Don't remind me of boat. That makes my heart ache. No, hopefully where it's not as bad as a boat, which is, someone said it's just a hole where you throw money into it. No, but I think
so. The only thing I was wondering is, aren't a lot of the capital improvements things that would need to be done at Kingsley in order for the physical property and and the rooms, et cetera, and the things that would need to be done, even if there was nobody at all here.
But yeah, John, I think you're right. It's really two parts to this. One is things that we absolutely need to do for the care and safety of our existing residents. And the fire alarm's a great example of that. I've lost sleep worrying about the fire alarm system. I think we get that in, and it's a very important. It's an improvement, but it's not something like the decor we see in the rooms that were vacated and have been redone. And we just heard that they're done very nicely, and those are improvements in the second part, which is for future residents.
No, I agree, and I think that the fire alarm system is obviously needed and logical. I don't think there's, but I think one of the really strong points about Kingsley is the staff. The staff are top notch. They're genuinely concerned. They're thoughtful. They're good natured, and I understand why you would want to keep them. And but at least for me, that is one of the wonderful things about Kingsley Manor is the staff. And I agree that they should be treated fairly and equitably with other I don't know what the word is, other arrangements throughout the residential communities, whether it's front porch or any other. And there was, in addition, there was many things that were mentioned towards the end of the charts of things that were planned to be done. I'm trying to get to a point here, and I'm probably not doing too well.
You're doing great, John.
I don't think, at least for me, although it's nice and I understand that it's necessary for Kingsley Manor to stay competitive in the market and to attract new residents, that most of the capital improvements won't really change my life and my enjoyment, which in great part is due to the staff. And that seems to be something that has been needed for some time, and it doesn't affect my enjoyment of being here. I certainly wouldn't want to see staff walking out to go to somewhere else that's going to pay them more. Although I don't think that would happen. Most of the staff is pretty dedicated to this place. So I'm wondering if, aside from the staff, the various capital improvements, the decor, kitchen appliances, etc., that's not really going to change my experience, because my experience here is based on people.
John, we agree with you about the staff. We think that's the most precious resource at Kingsley Manor. And it's in part because they enjoy Kingsley Manor, but what that really means is they have very close relationships with the residents. So the residents and the staff work very well together. Our job is to support, very simple, it's just to support the staff and help them do the best possible job.
I agree.
I'm agreeing with you. I think you made that point quite eloquently. The other thing that you're saying is that some of the improvements are to help people right now, and that includes supporting the staff and fixing the fire alarm. But some of this has to do with things either you don't see or will really only be enjoyed by future residents. And that's where our job is the most difficult. I say our job, it's both the people that you see on the screen from the support services, the corporate office, as well as the board of directors. They always have to balance their decisions on what's good now and what helps us position the organization to continue to be strong going forward. The reserves that pay for these improvements that we've been discussing this morning all come from past resident fees. They're the aggregate of all of our bottom lines over the years, and that, as a not-for-profit, we reinvest back into our communities. And that's what we're doing now, because our job is to not only do well now, but it's also to remain relevant for future occupancy. The benefit to you is that if we can improve occupancy from the 80s into the 90s, the economics change very rapidly. And there, I think we can also expect to see lower rate increases going forward. Ed, anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, you're right, John. It is, all of those are the result of, past residents, that via their rate increase. Yeah, and definitely, I couldn't agree with you more. I think the strength of not just Kingsley, but of Front Porch is our staff. And that I think that is why we've really focused in on this year. We have a 8% merit increase built in for all the staff as well to help retain and attract staff to our communities. So it really is residents first, and then our staff, which has been our focus on this current budget and every budget that we work on every year.
Jeff, one of your themes is occupancy. Anything you want to add to this discussion?
Well, I want to first say to John, his comments were spot on. And I know we have this recorded. I'd love to record his feedback and play it, because everything he said was so accurate, and how we manage and what we do. And those kinds of things about, how important the staff are to the residents is critical, and how we know that we hope they don't leave, but we hope that this 8% increase in wages is something that we can do to keep our wages competitive. And again, I think that the occupancy at Kingsley Manor, as we make improvements, we hope to see improvements in occupancy as well. And that will also further our efforts to hire more staff as needed. And it'll also further our opportunity to manage and mitigate our rate increases going forward. So, John, great comments. Really appreciate everything you said. I think you interpreted all of the information completely accurately. So thank you.
So, Mr. Hill, I want you to know that Jeff was referring to you, not me. but your team is the team here that supports you is in agreement. Anything else, John, that we can cover before we move on to other questions?
The only other thing that occurred to me, and again, I apologize for not being there in person. I didn't realize there was going to be handouts and stuff, so I only made some cursory quick notes. But front porch, how many retirement communities are under the umbrella of Front Porch?
19.
Oh, sure.
So
19, John.
You said that the capital improvements come out of a reserve that is funded by all 19 communities. Is that correct?
Well, it's an aggregate of contributions, bottom lines of past years, plus the strong investment earnings that because of Ed's wise investing strategy, which is contributed to the growth of that fund.
Okay, so the funds for the capital improvement at Kingsley Manor, if to make sure I understand this, come from a reserve which is contributed to by all 19 communities. Is that correct?
Everyone's revenues flow into this reserve. Yes.
Okay. So wouldn't the cost of the capital improvements, wouldn't Kingsley Manor only in a sense be responsible for 1/19 of that cost?
Well, John, that's the advantage of being with a large organization like ours. We have pooled resources that we can deploy to any community, and that's really I think the strength of Front Porch. You're not limited by the amount that you have contributed in the past, and I suspect that if we went back and added it all up, there'd be, took one way back, you would be receiving more than what you put in over the years. But that's not in question. We take that money plus the investment earnings and deploy it as we need. Sometimes we do things like a couple of years ago, we deferred the rate increase for 3 months, and we used funds from that reserve to offset the expenses that otherwise would have been paid from fee increases. So it's all a matter of how we manage as a very large company. We have $400 million in revenues, as Ed pointed out in his budget. We have 19 retirement communities. We also have another 32 affordable housing communities, which actually contribute right now more than the retirement communities to this, as Ed said, bottom line. Having said that, when that bottom line goes negative, we don't grow those reserves, they go down. And that's where they've been the last couple of years. And in fact, we're spending more than what's going in currently. So we're still not in a position where we have net positive contribution. And that's really the philosophy behind this budget.
So if there was 19 communities contributing to the reserve, that would be roughly 5% for each community. Well, roughly, I mean.
Well, that's not how it works, because it's not evenly divided. That's what my point is, we don't have a set proportion goal for each community. Each community's budget's set upon their own needs. And so we have some communities that have very significant contributions to that. Others, very little. And it's because we set their budget based on their needs. And we do the same thing in terms of capital contribution.
Okay, well, I've taken up enough time. Just one last question. Are you folks accessible aside from this meeting?
Absolutely. In fact, so accessible. Yeah, you can email us anytime. I have plans to be at Kingsley next week. I received an invitation to come over. And Jeff, you have plans to be over at Kingsley anytime in the near future?
I do, John. And Mr. Bill, I can be at Kingsley. I'm very close to Kingsley, but I will make a note of when I'm planning to be at Kingsley, and I'll make sure that you know that I'm going to be there. And if you want to chat, we can meet face to face.
I'd probably be best for me to write it out in an email so I have my thoughts a little more coordinated.
Well, you let me know what you think about it, and I will be available to you.
It's the best part of our day, John, is when we get to talk to residents. So Jen, I know we have other people patiently waiting. I'm not going to jump the line. Where do we go next?
There was an individual that had called in from a phone number ending in 128. And I invite that individual to join the conversation. You will have to unmute your microphone. But if we don't get an unmute in the next few seconds, it seemed that there was a question in the sky room still. So Raymond, if there is anyone else that has stepped forward, please let us know.
Yes, hello. My name is Helen Thompson, and I've been at this beautiful Kingsley Manor for 7 years now. And I have a big concern because obviously we need to cut back on expenses. So why does Front Porch want to spend a tremendous amount of money to move our wonderful library to the lobby, which is something that's very upsetting to many of us?
Well, I've heard a little about the library move, but Leon, could you brief us on what's transpired here?
Yes. So a few years back, that was the original design that was agreed upon, that the library would be relocated to the front lobby, and that the television room that's currently in the lobby would be relocated to a little more central location where some of the other events were occurring, which would be in the cottage. And so that was kind of the logic behind it. And I think for the last few years, we've kind of stayed that course. We don't see a lot of foot traffic necessarily in the library. And so I think in relocating the library to the lobby to that smaller space might be a little more beneficial. And we've also spoken to someone who says that there is another way to get libraries, like a virtual type situation that we might be looking into as well. More residents are not reading the hardbacks as they did in years past. And so there's other ways of getting literature that might be a little more advanced for others that would also help enhance our library of books. So that's kind of where we are with that. And for the most part, we have, majority of the residents are on board with that. We apologize again and continuously for those, that are not feeling the same way. We're trying to meet all of the residents' needs and the future needs of our future residents as well. And so again, our apologies.
Helen, this is a not necessarily about the library, but we hear about these difficult decisions frequently, because one common attribute of all the Front Porch communities is that we have very limited real estate. So we have to constantly look at our configuration and what we're doing in buildings and how we can rearrange things to maybe be a little more relevant to all residents. Sometimes we don't get it exactly right for everybody. And it sounds like you're definitely a big fan of the library and not such a big fan of having it in the lobby. But keep thinking about ways we can improve. Sometimes when we make changes, moves, it takes a while for it to settle in. Other times we say, well, let's change it a little bit, make it better for everybody. So is there anything you can think of that would make it better since the move to the lobby?
Well, I didn't realize it was a set in stone decision, because residents never had any opportunity to express their feelings about it. We never had a meeting in which people could talk about that. And the thing is this, this is an irreplaceable library. It's incredible the way it's set up with all the reference books. There are many people that like to look at reference books and books on various subjects. This is a very complete library that has all of that. And it's such a tremendous loss. It's a gorgeous library. And I don't think it's fair that the residents didn't And I regret that I felt so strongly about it, and a lot of my friends, that I was going to go around. I even got a clipboard and everything to go around and get signatures of all the people that are very hurt and upset by this. And I didn't do it. And I don't know if that would have made any difference, but it's just shocking the amount of money it's going to cost to make this move, and why, what for? I mean, I was told it would be $1 million to move the library to the lobby. And that's, I mean, why this huge expense for something that so many people object to?
Well, Helen, I think that none of these decisions are ever made without resident input, but it sounds like it was some time ago and part of a greater plan too. But the other thing about changes is that we never stop changing. So if you see ways that we can improve going forward from where we're at, you should continue to, you and others that have these ideas, continue to share them so that we can, if we don't get it right this time, we get it right in the future.
No, but this is not an idea. This is, if this is done, we've lost the library. And this is a tremendous loss. And it's so upsetting. And I can't understand it at all, why residents were never given a chance to express their feelings about it.
Helen, anything that you want to add to this? I know Helen's very disappointed about this, and perhaps some others too, but it sounds like this was part of a greater plan.
There were some talks in the past few years in regards to the lobby renovation and the cottage renovation. So again, we apologize, Helen, if you were not part of that, or if some of the other residents that have concerns are not part of that, but there were some other residents that did initiate some conversation in regards to how they wanted to see certain things. And there was some input and some feedback given. And I think that that's kind of where it was. And we continue to apologize for it. If there's some things in the library that you want to see, we can always speak with the librarian. She's, open to some additions or some changes. If that's what you want to see, let us know and we'll connect with the librarian and we'll see what we can do.
Well, Ms. O'Quinn, respectfully, all the directors before you, I came when Sean was the director. Didn't think this was a good idea, I understood how people felt, and said it was Front Porch's decision, not his, or not Kingsley Manor had nothing to do with it. And consequently, further directors, including Ted and, all said the same thing. You're actually the first director that really likes this idea, I think. So and why spend all this money also? That's my question too. It hasn't been answered. I was told it would cost $1 million to do this. And it would not only take away this gorgeous library with beautiful built-in, it's irreplaceable. It's no room in the lobby for it. The room where they proposed putting it has windows on all sides. And they would have to cover all those windows with new bookcases. And even then, it's not really large enough. It's not a library should be a quiet place like it is now, a relaxing place where you can read and refer to reference books, and they can't be checked out and things like that. So it's
Helen,
well,
we hear you, and we hear your passion about this too. It's not unusual that we don't please everyone. It's very hard to do. But Jeff, any thoughts about where this is and where it goes and how we can help?
Yeah, Helen, I wish there was something that we could say to you that would make you feel better. These are the kinds of changes that occur at our communities frequently as we evolve, and new prospects, new expectations, and sometimes we don't get consensus on these kinds of issues. Rarely do we ever get everybody's 100%, approval when we have to do things. I will say to you now that I don't know all the details behind your library change, but I do think that we have the opportunity to sit and talk with you more, hear your feedback, hear your concerns. We're more than welcome to listen to you. And then maybe there are opportunities where we can incorporate some of your ideas and thoughts into the changes that we're proposing. But I think that I understand what you're wanting from us today is we're not going to make changes. We're not going to do that. It would be wrong of me to say that because we will be making changes at Kingsley and other communities, as we always have. And I would also say that when we do make these changes, initially residents are reluctant to see the change, but when we make them, they enjoy them and they say, wow, that turned out better than I hoped. So let's continue the conversation, Helen. Thank you for your feedback. I understand how concerned you are.
May I ask another question? How many front porch communities have had their library moved to the lobby, or how many have their library in the lobby?
Actually, I can think of several, Jeff, and
Yeah,
not that unusual, Helen, but
yeah.
what works for other communities may not be a work for you all. So I don't think it's unusual, but you clearly have strong objections.
Well, why would you think that it would work for us here?
Helen, I think we've exhausted, certainly my perspective on this. I think that the best thing for you to do would be to sit down with Jeff when he comes over to show him personally what your concerns are, and we continue the conversation.
But it's concerning that the residents were never involved at all in this decision or given any chance to give their opinion or their feelings about it. Never.
Well, Helen, this is Jeff. I promise we're going to hear you. We're going to hear all of your concerns and comments. We're going to listen to you and we'll talk more about it. Does that work for you?
It seems to me like it's a done deal, and it's I'm really very sad about it. I don't think that's just the way I feel about it. It seems like it's something they don't want to change.
All right, well, we're going to sit down and chat some more about it. I really appreciate everything you've said. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good.
Is there anyone else in the Sky Room that would like to join the conversation, or anyone that's joining us from their home or have phoned in from their phone? You are welcome to join us.
I think we're all done here.
Well, my daughters were supposed to say something, but never.
We're all clear.
Thank you, Raymond.
Yes, thank you.
I saw Donna's hand up again.
Yes, Donna, unmute.
I just have one more question. Where does the money go from the people who donate, who leave money in their wills to Front Porch or one specific, facility?
First of all, it never goes away from where the donor's intentions specify. But we now have a unified foundation just to coordinate these. And the foundation then, the monies would go there. And if they're specified for a purpose, they're restricted to that purpose. And we're working on ways of streamlining the ability to get that money back to the community where it's intended as quickly as possible.
Okay.
I think, Mary McMillan, you want to talk a little more about the foundation and where we are with that? I think she may be on.
She is here. She's in the participant list, but frequently gets all the way.
Donna, I'm convinced that that's the right response. We've combined all of our foundations just to lower the operating expense, but we've also emphasized we want people to donate money to the causes that they are passionate about, and we want to make sure it gets back to that purpose as quickly as possible. That's our goal.
Hi, John, it's Mary. I'm sorry. I've got some technology issues, which is why it took me a while. But you absolutely answered it correctly. When funds are donated to the foundation for a specific project or community, they stay with that community and then are used for that designated project or community as the donor intended.
Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. Uta, I saw your frame come up a few minutes ago. I don't know if Uta Lee's still on. Jen, do you see her?
I do. I'm going to ask her to unmute.
Yeah, if she doesn't have a question, I have a few questions for her.
She's trying to locate the unmute.
See, this is what happens. If you, when the questions begin to slow down, I start picking on people for input.
She's having trouble unmuting, so she stepped away from the frame probably to figure out some other solution. Oh, she's back. Hi, Uta. I know you're looking to unmute.
Isn't the icon normally at the top center of the screen?
I think it depends on what kind of device that she's on. And
Oh, okay.
Got an iPad.
Yeah, I'm unable to unmute her myself.
I put her on. I'm sorry if I created any unnecessary pressure. Jen, is there anyone else out there that looks like they
Can
have
you
a-
hear me now?
Absolutely.
I managed, finally.
I was just apologizing for putting you on the spot, Uta.
Okay. I'm here. So what would you like to know, John?
Well, you heard a lot of things today, and we started with the pain of a 9.5% increase. That's very hard, and the concern about the future, and also talking about the different types of things we're spending money on around Kingsley Manor. Do you have any thoughts on all this, or how did
Well,
it sound?
I make it very short. Don't do it again. Don't do it again.
On that note,
I mean, we will collapse if it comes again next year around. I would say, when I saw the charts, and you had to do it because of the increased expenditure, I can see it, but it's hard. It's hard for me too.
I know it is.
We had to go to our banker and see if we would be able to stay or size down, but we will stay.
But we're going to talk to the entire corporate team next week, and you'll be quoted.
Okay.
You'll be quoted as "Don't do it again." And I think on that note, thank you so much, and I will see you next week too.
Okay. Oh yeah, looking forward to it.
And Jen, is there any last minute additions or people you think I should put on the spot?
Okay.
I don't see any additional last minute hand raises or anything.
Well, I'd like to try to squeeze in the last word here, which is this is a sad occasion for me because it's the last State of the Organization presentation that I'll participate in at Front Porch. I've been here for the better part of 8 years and enjoyed seeing the residents as often as I can. We have an incredible team of colleagues out there supporting the residents. I'll tell you that our strategy all comes from discussions with residents and discussions with staff like the ones that you have at Kingsley Manor. And we listen. We're always working on being better listeners. You can hear today, there's some things that we're going to go back and think more about. But this has been a tremendous honor for me to lead this organization. And I'm very grateful for that. We have my successor successors starting on March 6th, Sean Kelly. I'm sure he will be out to see you very soon. He's a very lucky man to have that opportunity. And what's more, I think he really is eager and excited about being able to take my place. He's a good man, a good listener, and I'm sure, as you did with me, you'll train him well. So thanks. Take care.
Bye-bye.